Hey guys, welcome back to another Shared News from Home. We are live today to talk all the latest in Bachelor Nation. As always, I am your host, Fiona Zaring, and I'm joined by the wonderful Hiba Berry. Hello, Hiba. Happy Monday. How are you?
Hey Fiona, I'm doing well. Happy Monday to you as well.
All right. Well, Hiba, it's Monday, but there is already a shocking amount of Bachelor Nation news to catch up on. So let's just dive right in and kick things off with a bit of a shocking update from Victoria Fuller. I am sure you guys remember her from Peter's season. They had a fairly dramatic relationship, all things considered. She was then also briefly linked to Bachelor Nation's Chris Soules. They split last September. That was also a bit of an interesting curveball for us all. And now we have the latest update on her love life. She just stopped by the Clickbait podcast and announced she's saving herself for marriage. So I think a lot of us immediately jumped to, so what brought on this pretty major commitment? She actually recently joined a non denominational Christian community. She explained that she's learned to embrace spirituality in a way that's different from her Catholic upbringing. So she was raised Catholic, but now she's sort of starting a new journey with her faith. She explained, quote, "It's kind of funny because now my two biggest questions when I go on a date are, what's your relationship with the Lord and what are your intentions? To me, that is just everything at this point. So it has changed. Before, I don't think my relationships really revolved around that. So it is interesting." Now, listen, I don't want to say like this was super shocking or really harp on what a 180 this is because, of course, like, listen, her path is her path. Everyone is entitled to, find their own way in life. So no judgments, no looking back on her past. But the thing that I do kind of want to unpack here for a second is we obviously met her during Peter's season, and she was a bit of a controversial contestant. Like I said, they had a bit of a roller coaster of a relationship. And it almost sounds as though she's just a completely new person, right? She's grown a lot. She set some very serious, standards for herself. And she was someone we talked about a lot during this season. And I just can't help but think, like, I feel like if she was on the show now, she would be a completely different person to have evolved that much in what's a relatively short amount of time. I mean, what do you make of this, Heba?
This is very interesting to, see this statement that she said. And maybe, hindsight's 2020, maybe going on the show, this is what she realized, and dating after the show, this is also what she realized. And maybe to weed out the people that aren't as much of a quality in her dating life, this is what these are basically the new standards that she has for her dating life. And I mean, good on her, good for her. This is a good way for her to balance her faith and yet finding the love of her life. So I feel like once those kind of go hand in hand, that's really important in order to sustain exactly what you're looking for. And it's good she has those two questions, what's your relationship with the Lord and what are your intentions? So those are some good starting points to really kind of find that perfect fit in your life with the person. And I think, whatever works for her is great. And again, maybe if she hadn't gone on The Bachelor, maybe again didn't date after the show, she wouldn't maybe have realized these things and these thoughts with her faith and things like that in the dating life and stuff. So I think this has really changed her maybe for the better, and we'll see if this does help her get more quality guys in her dating life and maybe a proper relationship, more long lasting. So we'll definitely have to see and kind of keep tabs on her and see if we see her with any specific person or a consistent person as far as a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And I think definitely if this happened pre-show before Peter's season, I think we might have seen a different side of her and maybe seen her act differently. Maybe she would be more focused on faith as far as that being the first kind of hurdle to jump over and to be on the same page before exploring a deeper relationship with Peter. So I think that's a really interesting point to see how much of a different storyline it would have been what had she, had this kind of stronger faith relationship with God, that type of thing. So I think it would have been completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think about like Maddie Pruitt from Peter's season. Obviously, her journey on the Bachelor franchise was very faith driven. Faith, when she went on the show, was something she talked a lot about. It was kind of a deal breaker for her. She had obviously set standards for herself as well. And I think that, we've seen them kind of keep up a friendship after the cameras stopped rolling. Victoria has remained friends with a lot of women from Peter's season. Oddly enough, I feel like Peter's season has become quite a close-knit group. I feel like on Instagram, left and right, I'm seeing them popping up, doing girls trip here, little picnic thing there, which I always do love to see, especially because they come from such a competitive environment. So I think Victoria is one of those people who had an interesting journey on the show. She went on a show at a time where I think she was more finding herself, perhaps maybe not ready to take the steps that she thought she was ready to take. And now she's someone who, again, no idea if she's interested, no idea if she's willing, but I would love to see someone like her pop up in Paradise, because she's really gotten in touch with who she is, what she's looking for, what she wants. Obviously, there's no one correct path in life for romance, faith, etc., but she brings a unique perspective. So I think she's somebody who hopefully we'll continue to hear about in Bachelor Nation. And like you said, Hiba, just keep our eyes out to see what comes next in her relationships moving forward, because this is a very huge personal commitment, lifestyle change that she's just taken on. So definitely look forward to hearing more about her in the near future. You guys, before we move on to some incredibly exciting news, if you are joining us live for the very first time, hello and welcome. And also make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future lives. We do our best on Shared News to keep you updated on all things Bachelor Nation all the time. So make sure you subscribe and join the party if you have not already. All right, let's talk Tayshia and Zac, because they are my all-time faves right now. I love anytime we get some new news from them. Of course, Bachelor Nation is obsessed. There is a lot of buzz coming from fans, myself, that they might be, one of those couples that actually makes it out of this process. This is a success story for the franchise. And Zac just gave us a fairly major update as to where their relationship is headed. We actually have a clip of a recent interview he did with Us Weekly. So let's check that out right now. It's going to be worth it to hear it from Zac himself.
Are you guys still taking it day by day?
No, obviously there's wedding plans, there are plans to get married, but it's been a wild start to the year, and is there a wedding date at this very moment? No. Will there be? Yes.
Yeah. Do you think you guys will televise the wedding?
Oh, I have no idea. Is that something you do? Is that something you do?
So, all right, this is why I wanted you guys to hear it from Zac himself, because you can see how happy he is, how cheerful he looks, and how genuinely in love he still is with Tayshia, which I absolutely love. A lot of us have obviously been curious since they got engaged, what does the wedding planning look like? So he has just confirmed wedding is on the table. They are talking about it. They're obviously planning, but there's no date at this point. They're not working towards, a fall wedding, a winter wedding, but it is in the orbit of things they are working on. I just feel like while this news, isn't that surprising, Hiba? It's exciting. I'm glad to hear this. I'm glad to see they're talking about it and that it's still in the future. What do you make of that clip?
It's always nice to see Bachelor, Bachelorette couples, finally get the ball rolling towards marriage, because sometimes, they stay engaged for a while and always get hit with those questions like, when are you guys going to finally get married? And then after they're married, it's when are you going to have kids, etc. So the cycle never really stops as far as the questions and people just wanting more and more. But I'm happy, especially for this couple, because they are so solid. I have said this time and time again. This couple was so solid. We saw it from the beginning. There was instant chemistry and instant sparks between them on Tayshia's season. So I'm so happy that they're still together, because, sometimes with these relationships in the Bachelor franchise, a lot of them fall through and they fall short. So the probability rate of the success is very, very low, slim to none kind of. And so it's always so nice to see them, Tayshia and Zac, kind of breaking that cycle and being still so in love with each other still to this day. And I'm just happy that they're moving forward in the relationship and making wedding plans. And, you can still see it on Zac's face that he kind of gushes about it and he's so excited whenever Tayshia comes up in the subject. So I feel like, you know what, I honestly have no worries for them as far as them being successful in the future with their marriage and hopefully having a family one day as well, because I know that's what Tayshia has expressed. So I have no worries about them again, and I'm just excited for when the day finally comes for the two of them.
Yes, I literally couldn't have put it better myself. Just excitement all around. The last question that fans have, I don't know if you guys caught it right at the end of that clip, is obviously like we've seen televised weddings in the past, right, from Bachelor Nation couples. It is something that happens once in a blue moon. It's not the standard, but sometimes faves will, cash in, let's face it, cash in a huge paycheck, I'm assuming, and open up that moment to be shared with the world. They are fan favorites, so people want to see as much from them as we possibly can, but it doesn't look like they are planning on sharing that moment that intensely with us all. Zac responded to that question saying, I would say probably not, knowing us. Probably a no, but hey, happy wife, happy life, so whatever she wants, I'm in. I feel like it's not their style. I feel like I can't imagine Tayshia saying to Zac, like, no, this is 100% what I really want. So I don't think that's really worth getting our hopes up for. I mean, what do you think, Hiba? I just can't picture it. As much as I can picture them walking down the aisle, I don't picture like a cheesy televised special.
I feel like it could go either way, to be honest, because I think, when it comes to these Bachelor couples, it's kind of like, there's gray areas of maybe how much they want to put out in the public, and it seems like, what, we were along for the ride for so long, and it would be nice, kind of for us to see a televised wedding. Again, I kind of agree with you. I don't know if it's their style. They seem a little bit more low key, and they got the engagement out of the way. Like that's enough. I don't think they want to like jinx their marriage now, so I think they got lucky with the engagement working out perfectly on television. So I think I could kind of see it go either left or right, whether they would want a televised wedding. But I think I'm going to agree with you, Fiona, and kind of lean to the no, that they might just pass on it.
Yeah, I definitely think, we would be devastated as fans, so maybe I'm just hoping, but I think we'll get to see some of it. Maybe they do a video that they share on social media or, some interviews leading up to it. I'm sure they will give us some content because so many people have been along for this ride. But again, we don't even know officially. They don't even know, according to Zac, when that date is even going to be. So we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Don't want to start counting down, just yet. Another thing Zac opened up about during this recent interview is sort of how it's been just navigating their relationship in real life. Because, Hiba, this is something we've talked about so many times. Anyone who walks away from The Bachelor, Bachelorette, in love, engaged, or in a relationship, you are in such a bubble, such a warped sense of reality that there is a huge risk factor there that real life is just not going to work. But that hasn't been the case for Zac and Tayshia. He explained, quote, coming out of that TV environment, I think we had a strong foundation, and then it's about digging in together and getting to know each other and understanding each other's lives, which I think is so true. We saw it at the end of that season. You can just tell when a connection is really real and really genuine and has a good foundation, which they definitely, I think, proved to fans watching everywhere. So it was just going to be, could they fit each other into their lives? He added, we are both passionate, driven, busy human beings. And with that, we need to remind ourselves to work each other into it. And we've done that. He did reveal that a couple months after the show, there were some ups and downs, which he said were, of course, well documented. But at the end of the day, it's all good right now. So listen, we saw it through social media. Tayshia went to New York. Zac came here. There were times when they were spending a lot of time together. Then just life, there were times that she would be in Orange County and he would be in New York City, and that can take a toll on any couple. But every time we have seen them together, any glimpses we get, they seem so happy, so in sync. And really, just that reflection in and of itself is a reminder of how mature they are. I feel like just as people, there is a maturity that comes with Zac as an individual, with Tayshia, that makes me trust them a little bit more than, let's just say, some other couples in Bachelor Nation. What do you make of that, Hiba?
Oh, I totally agree. And I love that Tayshia keeps it so real as well. Sometimes on her Instagram stories, she'll say she's having a bad day or she misses home. She misses the West Coast where she's originally from. So I know she officially moved to the East Coast where Zac is in New York, I believe. And so, yeah, like you mentioned, there was a lot of going back and forth, living by coastal, and factor in a pandemic and COVID on top of that, where you can't really go out still. You kind of have to be confined to your house and they still survived that. So I feel like they should get some type of medal or trophy for that because the kind of the statistics of that working out, coming out of a reality show and then without the cameras, you're supposed to live with this partner that you have now, your fiance, and then again, like I mentioned, a pandemic on top of that, it can get really difficult. And a lot of people can crack under that pressure and easily call it quits, kind of get an easy way out as an excuse of the pandemic and all these pressures and the stress of everything kind of forming together. So I think again, I really have no worries for them if they can survive this pandemic and living alone in some situations when they were living bi-coastal with one another and doing long distance. I think with marriage it's going to be very solid for them because again, going back to the show, we saw that solid connection form, that foundation. So I think because that is so sturdy and so strong, they were able to come over those other hurdles that we saw after the show. So I think it just is a test of time. And they, again, are so mature. And that's also a great mix into this kind of recipe for the relationship. So yeah, I cannot rave about them anymore. Like they just seem so solid. And it seems like they're going to be the most successful couple, I want to say, in Bachelor Nation. And I don't want to jinx it, but it just seems like it's heading that way. And, of course, we always want happiness in a relationship to work out. So hopefully this marriage is successful and they end up very happy for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I am so with you. But you guys, anyone watching live with us right now, we want to know what you think. I mean, we are big fans of Tayshia and Zac here. Clearly, we have a lot of faith in them, but maybe you don't. Let us know in the chat what you think, how serious you think they are, how far they're going to go. We want to know all of your thoughts, of course. And throughout the stream, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, let us know in the chat because at the very end, we're going to try to get to as many of them as possible. All right, Hiba, we got to talk about our next Bachelorette because we have a bit of an interesting update on Katie. Obviously, we are very excited. We've talked a lot about her upcoming season. Again, big Katie fans over here. We got a lot of faith in her. We did get a tiny tease, the tiniest of teases, when ABC announced her very first promo clip last week. I mean, you guys, that is literally it. She had a little rose moment. They announced the date, of course, June 7th. Exciting, nonetheless, just to see a little something. Fans felt a little disappointed, which I get. I mean, it was a very simple video. Did you like it? I didn't have very high expectations. I mean, I kind of just went, okay, here we go. First glimpse of Katie. What did you think? What was your initial reaction to this, Hiba?
This was interesting because I actually do remember seeing this clip and I thought, you know what, it is very short and to the point of them just showing, her face and her holding a rose. And yeah, there really wasn't much to kind of take away from it. I mean, we didn't see any men. We just saw her in a white background. She wasn't on set for a location anywhere. So we couldn't even get a location of where this might be shooting, kind of, be our little FBI agent, kind of figure out where they or what city they would be shooting in. But yeah, it just seemed very straight to the point. Just really couldn't take away anything. It just seems pretty cut and dry, honestly.
Yeah, that's kind of what my thought was. Obviously, it was exciting. I was like, oh, there she is. She has a rose. And the biggest takeaway I had was just at that point, we didn't know when her season was going to air. So the date was exciting, new information. To be honest with you guys, I kind of moved on from it. But that is not exactly what happened across Bachelor Nation as a whole, which is very interesting. A lot of people had a lot of thoughts, I guess is the best way to put it, on Katie's outfit. Essentially, the skirt, as we can see there, it's purple, it's leather, and it features kind of like a zipper down the front, which a lot of people, I guess, felt was kind of outdated. And when I thought about it more after reading some of the tweets, like There was a period of time where we were seeing anything, shirts, jackets, dresses, skirts had zippers kind of down the front. And that is, not as common. That's not as trendy right now. I will give people credit there. But this is where it just kind of makes me laugh because as we've talked about many a time, Bachelor Nation fans are basically detectives. And so somehow enough people went down the rabbit hole of this skirt that they found the actual skirt itself and realized that Katie is technically wearing it backwards. That zipper should be in the back. It should not be in the front. It is meant to be a zipper down the back, which is more common as to what we're seeing, in trends right now, I guess. And so the question is, did the stylist intentionally put Katie in a skirt backwards? Was it a big mistake? Was there some sort of wardrobe malfunction? And was it the clothing item, the potential wardrobe malfunction mistake, whatever you want to call it, that kind of derailed this clip from being a super exciting moment? I mean, I don't even know, Hiba. What do you think? I feel like all of this I'm like trying to process because I literally didn't blink. I was just like, oh, there she is. She's got a rose. We learned the date. Moving on. But people really unpacked this.
Exactly. I'm on the same page as you, Fiona. I'm like, the zipper was the last thing I was looking at. I was like, oh my God, look, she's holding a rose. Like, it's Katie. Like, we're ready. We've been waiting for this. Like, I did not pay attention to this skirt at all. I don't really go that deep as far as analysis in a video. I just took it as face value what it was. But man, you guys really go deep as far as like figuring out the exact style of this skirt and that it was backwards. I mean, honestly, I did not even notice it. I thought she looked fine. I thought she looked great. Yeah, again, the zipper was the last thing, so I don't really have much to say on that. But I mean, she looks great, and I don't think there was any intention as far as, for it to be the zip in the front. I mean, maybe she wanted to, change it up and make it her own. You never know. But yeah, I, again, didn't really pay attention to the skirt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you. And here's the thing, like, I hesitate any time to like criticize what someone's wearing, what someone's doing, right? So like, let's say she looked at this skirt and thought, you know what, it would be cooler if the zipper's down the front. To me, it doesn't matter if that was like quote unquote on trend a few years ago, as long as you feel good, as long as you like what you're wearing, like unless it's like outwardly offensive, I pretty much don't care. For lack of a better way of putting it, I mean, truly. So honestly, I did think it was really interesting. And like the other thing is, this is not the first celebrity we've seen do something like this. Stylists especially can be very creative, and like I'm thinking back to, I can't remember how long ago it was, Kate Middleton actually wore a top backwards. It was a top that I believe had like buttons or like a bow or something that usually would have been on the back side. And this time she chose to wear it down the front and it looked great. And it was a totally new top. I can't remember the designer, but obviously it was a pricey item. And so she chose to wear it differently. And I think that can be really great. A lot of people were calling into question, was it less flattering? Would Katie have been given like a better silhouette had she worn it the other way around? And I have to say, I mean, I think she looks great. I think she looks beautiful. I think that, no matter what clothes you're wearing, as long as you feel good, that's sort of the moral of the story here. We won't really know how the skirt could have looked had she worn it differently. Do you think it could have been a better fashion moment, Hiba, had we just had like a clean line down the front? I mean, it's tough to say.
I think she would have looked great either way, whether it was backwards, frontwards, forward, I don't know. But I mean, it's a skirt. Like, I think she looks fine either way. Again, it's something I didn't notice. Didn't really make a big deal out of it. Didn't seem that deep to me of an issue. But yeah, either way, I mean, she looks great.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, this is why I said Bachelor Nation makes me laugh. Who would have thought the skirt Katie is wearing in this, 10-second clip would have made such a splash online? But this is why we love Bachelor Nation. You can't get anything past anyone. What did you guys think? Did this cross your mind? Did you notice anything? Do you have strong feelings on the skirt debate? Let us know. We obviously want to hear from you guys as well. For now, let's move on to I don't want to say a more substantial update, but a little bit more tea, all things considered. We do have some news on Rachael and Matt. A woman named Grace has come forward with claims that she was casually dating Matt before his season, and after everything wrapped and the fallout, all played out, they have been in touch, they have been communicating. Pretty huge update, you guys. Very interesting. And what really takes it to the next level is Grace did a live interview with none other than reality Steve himself. She explained at the time that she basically felt prompted to speak out, to share what had been going on between the two of them after seeing that Rachael and Matt had reunited in New York. So she said, quote, "I just felt like Rachael was so in love with him, and for him to be trying to contact me and hang out with me, someone he's had past romantic relationships with 2 days prior in Miami, felt like I had to say something for Rachael's sake." So basically the timeline she's setting up here, you guys, is 2 days before those photos surfaced of Rachael and Matt walking down the street, in New York. We don't know exactly what, but Matt had been in contact with her, and it just didn't sit right. It upset her to the point of sharing her truth with Steve himself. So there's a lot to unpack here. I feel like it's interesting. It's a curveball. It's something I wasn't expecting. What do you think of this, Hiba?
This is very interesting because this Grace has kind of come out of nowhere, and it's so hard because once we hear of a person that is not related to Bachelor Nation, we kind of have to get a little skeptical because we don't know if they're, trying to get that fame or try to be associated with Matt now that he has been very publicly publicized and kind of has a lot of eyes on him at the moment. So again, the intentions are so different with, again, these unknown people that we've never heard of before, trying to, push their narrative into this Rachael and Matt relationship. And again, I'm not saying I'm trying to disprove her. It would be nice maybe if we could see some sort of like screenshots, more evidence trying to convince us that she isn't some kind of snitch or some some kind of person trying to just get fame out of the situation or in this narrative. But I don't know, it seems like she is trying to maybe warn Rachael in a way, I guess you can say, to maybe convince Rachael that Matt isn't being as genuine as you think he was on the show because he had relations with this Grace person. So it just seems like this weird triangle going on and a lot of miscommunication as well. And we actually spoke about this in a previous video, and it just seems like Matt might be trying to, kind of like hush Grace in the situation because he's maybe trying to reconcile with Rachael. So it's just like a mind-blowing kind of situation to really keep track of. And it can also easily become a he said versus she said situation where we don't really know who is actually saying the truth. So any type of situation like this just gets very messy, and it's really hard to trust one side when they're both saying such different things and easily trying to, push one another under the bus. So again, it's really hard without any type of evidence. It's just her word against his, vice versa. So unless we get new developments, and again, maybe something like screenshots, like I mentioned, any type of DM or text messages, I feel like that might kind of hinder which way we tend to lean as far as what the truth might be in this story. But I don't know. Again, it just puts Rachael and Matt's relationship in another complicated position post controversy. Now we have this Grace person that they also have to deal with. So it's just a lot being thrown their way, and I hope they can just kind of clear the air once and for all, whether we hear a statement from either one of them or from Grace again. Yeah, it just gets very messy in these types of situations, honestly.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. It feels that's just the only word you can use because it does feel messy. I mean, I'm with you. I think there's something to be said about, okay, so he just reached out to you while he was in Miami, while you were in Miami, which would paint like a positive ongoing relationship there, yet now you're kind of doing an interview with Bachelor Nation's biggest tea spiller, and that feels like you said, I mean, a little messy. It's hard to fully trust those intentions, right? We say like people go on the show for the right reasons, the wrong reasons. I don't know how those like reasons kind of sit in my book, right? At looking at Grace. Now, obviously it could have been totally positive, nothing but good intent, and I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. So then you kind of go down a different path where you wonder, Matt has been so adamant in so many interviews about working on himself and not looking for any sort of romantic relationship right now. So you're curious, like, what made him reach out to her? Is this sort of his public party line, but behind the scenes he is open to exploring things again? I mean, there are so many different threads you can start pulling, and unfortunately none of them will lead us to any answers. So we are, like you said, just left with a lot of questions, not really knowing which way to turn, which information is totally correct right now. We do have some sourced quotes. Some sources have come forward on the record to comment on this, to sort of shed some light on how Rachel's feeling, what Matt's intentions were. And like I feel like always, disclaimer, you guys, we don't know these sources, right? We don't know who they are, where they come from, what they're saying. So oftentimes there is a lot of truth, layered into some of these narratives that are put out there. But until we really get some clarity, I think from Matt or Rachel, or even like you mentioned, some more info from Grace, this is going to be one of those situations to just keep our eyes on. But let's talk about what we have been told as of right now, which is that Rachel feels she was manipulated, which again, strong word, right? To feel manipulated. It is a pretty solid statement. Us Weekly is saying she is very hurt because she and Matt were allegedly talking about a future together. A source quote is, Rachel is very emotional right now because she was very hopeful that things were going to work out. She's still trying to process this. So again, like I said, there are a lot of different stories out there right now. I have read that, people are claiming Rachel and Matt never stopped FaceTiming, that they've been in touch, that they've been talking a lot, that there have been a lot of conversations, and that what was going on behind the scenes didn't exactly match that sort of extreme distance that we were being fed through interviews, through updates. Meanwhile, that's sort of what we have from Rachel. A source close to Matt tells Us Weekly that he tried to make it clear that he just wants to be friends, adding that Matt is a caring and supporting person, so he wouldn't want to block her out of his life completely. So again, I'm left sort of sitting here feeling like the best we can interpret from this is perhaps there was a miscommunication. If we kind of put it all together, have they maybe been in touch? Have they maybe been talking things out? Has Rachel been maybe hoping for one thing? Has Matt been sort of on a completely different page but not communicating that well enough? I mean, there are a lot of possibilities, but it feels like regardless of what is 100% true or not, there have maybe been some complications, some missteps in navigating this relationship between the two of them after it all fell apart. I mean, what do you think about it? It's complicated. It's messy.
Exactly. I mean, same thing that I previously said. It's really about he said, she said. And now that we're factoring source reporting in, it's really kind of, you have to just take it with a grain of salt because we really don't know what's going on besides Matt and Rachel, who are, of course, in that relationship. So I think until we hear something from them, even if at all, that's just kind of speculation that we have to go off of and public appearances or outings that we might see them in. And I think, again, going back to this Grace person, I mean, she could have easily just like reached out to Rachel privately instead of having to go on this reality Steve podcast and like outing her publicly and outing Grace herself publicly and Matt and everyone involved. So I think there's just a lot of shady stuff going on right now. And in a previous video, I also said that it kind of seems like Matt is also being a little bit shady as well with Grace, because if we, I mean, as an audience, we saw him, go on this whole journey of love, and for him to kind of go back to this Grace person that we really don't know of and really what the intentions are, it just seems really shady. And then to be seen spotted with Rachel, it's just really a big mess. And as far as where Matt and Rachel are in their reconciliation journey, if that, I don't know if it's gonna maybe work out as far as them getting back together, but I think it's possible for them to be civil with one another and maybe acquaintances. I don't even know if friends is a possibility, with how they ended. But it's just time will tell again, and it's just so hard to really give a concrete answer when there's so much, noise from different directions from different people with, again, intentions that we don't know of. So it's just really putting them in another tough spot again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, I know on one video on this channel, right? I mean, we're talking about Bachelor Nation so constantly. I remember saying, like, when we saw that they were reuniting in New York, at the time, we were getting a lot of reports of, like, they're friends, they're working things out, they're seeing each other as friends. And I sort of felt like it's hard to be friends with an ex, period. End of story, right? You can break up really ugly and try to develop a friendship. You could break up totally amicably and try to develop a friendship. It is hard. So factor in the kind of breakup they had, the reasoning behind the breakup, all of the layers, all of the emotions. And I just felt like if they're already in a place where they've healed enough and they're ready to truly just be cordial, that's kind of like a crazy superhero feat, right? That they've taken on. I mean, people are just complicated. Emotions run deep, and that can be very, very difficult. Now you add in a whole other, however much truth there is to this or not, it's just another added difficulty, another burden for them to bear, another conversation they have to have. So honestly, it feels like, I've said this before and I'll say it again, what really I think they need is some space, some time to heal. And I think Matt needs to chill, work on himself, take a break, and just kind of bounce back slowly. Because let's face it, he's had a lot of heavy weight to bear, a lot on his shoulders, a lot to process. I can't imagine the emotional toll half of what he's been through would take on anyone. So definitely interesting. Not the update I was hoping for. I was hoping things would start to get less messy, and it feels like they are just getting more and more and more and unraveling. So you guys, that's all we know. I mean, right now we don't have a lot of answers. We just have a lot of questions. So obviously, as we learn more, if we learn more, we're going to keep you posted. For now, what do you make of this? What in your gut feels like is going on here, you guys? Let us know in the chat, because we are all just unraveling this together for the time being. One person in Bachelor Nation who certainly has had a reaction to this and certainly has a side and opinion that she wanted made known is Clare Crawley, interestingly enough. Somebody on Twitter tweeted out reminding fellow Bachelor Nation fans that Clare had, quote, tried to warn us about Matt in the past, and she literally could not help herself but to respond. She reposted the tweet on Friday, and she added a shrug and smirk emoji for emphasis. So if we remember, of course, Matt was initially going to be a contestant on Clare's season. Before her season started, after it had been delayed, Clare made headlines for tweeting out, seemingly taking aim at Matt. She wrote at the time, "If you are doing interviews and creating cameo accounts before you are even on my season, you are in it for the wrong reasons. Hashtag don't waste your time." Now, a lot of people immediately jumped to the conclusion that this was about Matt. He had a cameo. He has done interviews. He's friends with Tyler Cameron. He was all over the internet. But it was kind of easy to defend, let's face it, because he kind of already was a celebrity. It's not like he was talking about Clare in those cameo posts. He had people requesting him because of his close relationship to Tyler, because of his public persona that already existed. So I'm going to say I remember this coming out, and it felt kind of cold from Clare initially. She did clarify, she did backtrack it a little after so many people kind of came to Matt's defense, explaining that the intent of that tweet was talking about multiple men. It was a general thought she had while she was sort of looking around, taking in the pandemic and seeing behavior from many of her contestants online. So listen, it was interesting. It was a little confusing. It was something we talked about at the time. Matt was obviously announced as The Bachelor a few months later. But when you put that in the perspective of what she just did, right? Reposting this tweet, Clare is subtle on social media usually. She'll like something here or there. She'll get her thoughts known with like a low-key social media action, but she went as far as to repost this. So seeing this tweet, remembering what's happened in the past, I mean, Could it be less obvious? I mean, she is just not a fan of Matt. What do you think of this, Hiba? It's a little shocking.
The part that's mostly the red flag to me is the fact that she reposted it during this time of when Matt
Right.
is still kind of unraveling in this drama and like figuring out with Rachel. So I feel like it's too much of a coincidence for her to just generalize it and say like, "Oh no, I saw multiple men in general, making cameo accounts and doing interviews." But the timing of that repost and the intention and the emojis behind it just seems like it's a little jab at Matt James. I mean, there's no other Bachelor contestant or contestant from her season that we're talking about compared to Matt James himself. So it seems very aimed at him and indirectly aimed at him as well. So I think she's just trying to, get a little jab at him and to kind of give her thoughts indirectly about this Rachel Matt situation. But yeah, I mean, that timing of that reposting of that tweet is just a big red flag for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. It feels like, her initial tweet way back when she said it was about a bunch of guys, but now you're so
Hmm.
right. There's kind of only one guy that we are really talking about. So it
Right.
is interesting. Yeah, I mean, look at it. You can see it right there. Little shrug, little smirk. It feels loaded. I don't know how else to put it. So it's definitely interesting. Claire is someone who I feel like she's just when I feel like we're not talking about Claire, we got a new thing to unpack, right? I mean, this is definitely interesting. We will have to keep our eyes out. Just see, I mean, like we said, this situation is going to continue to unfold. So, will Claire continue to speak out as we learn more? We don't know. You guys, what do you make of this tweet from Claire? Let us know because it is that time. We're going to try to take as many questions and comments from the chats as we can very shortly. So, get your thoughts out there. Let us know what you think of Claire's tweet, if you think we'll be hearing more from her. Because honestly, you guys truly have your fingers on the pulse of all things Bachelor Nation. Half the time, I feel like we cannot even keep up with what you guys know. So we just want to hear from you what you guys think is going on, what has stood out to you. And honestly, I mean, we've got a lot of questions in this live, Hiba. This is one of those weeks in
Ooh,
Bachelor
great.
Nation where so far we have more questions than we have answers, right? There's a lot of rumors on the table right now. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so much going on. There's so many new developments, I feel like each and every day. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of mingling going on. There's a lot of new sightings going on. So it's really interesting to break it down and see, who's meeting up with who and what part of town and who's speaking out. So there's always something to talk about with Bachelor News.
Oh my gosh. Yes, there is always something. We can literally, I feel like, do our best to keep up, but like you said, there's just always going to be a new spotting, a new person, a new rumor to unpack. And I mean, I keep going back to the Katie skirt thing. There are detectives in Bachelor Nation
Right.
who are on the ball, uncovering all the details from the most important to, the littlest things. So you can't get anything past Bachelor Nation. First up, we have from Eduardo. He says, I listened to her interview on Happy Hour. She seems so different than when she was on The Bachelor. She has grown from it. Okay, so he is talking about our girl Victoria F. And yeah, I am totally with you, Eduardo. It feels like Victoria has really gone on quite a personal journey since her time on the show. And I absolutely think that's great. I think that anyone who, goes on reality TV and kind of plays a certain role, that doesn't mean you can't and shouldn't continue to evolve as a person. I think there's nothing stronger than pulling a 180, especially if you have a public persona. It just shows how really in tune you are with yourself. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it just goes to show, her going on that show was a testament of how much she could grow after that show had ended. And again, hindsight's 2020. She might not have learned that had she not gone on Peter's season. So it really just kind of factors into her past experiences, what she's learned, what she's going to implement going forward in her dating life, in her faith as well, playing a huge part. So I think, again, good on her. And hopefully, it works and she finds someone once and for all. All right, this next user says, I can't wait to see their wedding. Hope they do televise their wedding. Now, of course, this user is talking about Tayshia and Zac, like we just discussed. And again, I feel like it really could go either way. I feel like they would be down for a televised wedding, but maybe not. Maybe they wanted to just keep that part of the relationship to themselves, which is, of course, totally understandable. But I really can see it going both ways. I feel like Tayshia has such great taste and she's going to have a beautiful wedding. Not sure about the size or if it's going to be a destination wedding or, crazy big or, crazy elaborate or extravagant. But I think it's going to be more on the simpler side. And I hope we get to see pictures on social media, maybe pictures they release for ABC's network. I mean, we'll see if we get any kind of content as far as them revealing any exclusive pictures if they choose not to televise the wedding. But either way, I feel like we're going to see pictures and see content from their wedding. So I think it's going to be great. And I'm very excited for when that day finally comes for them to be official. What do you think, Fiona?
Yeah, no, I couldn't be with you more. I feel like Tayshia and Zac getting married is going to be such a happy day in Bachelor Nation. I also cannot wait to see any of what they share with us. I think it's going to be so special. One thing, I mean, as you were saying, like, will it be destination? How big will it be? All that. One thing that I guess I hadn't really thought of yet is obviously, I mean, let's face it, the reality of the world is still what it is. I mean, you and I aren't in a studio right now. We're at home. Life hasn't gotten back to normal yet. So I could see Tayshia, like, this is her second wedding. Obviously, it would be so, so important to her, so meaningful. I could see her really not wanting to rush it for so many reasons, right? Wedding planning can be a headache. It is expensive. It is extensive. And honestly, it's stressful, right? I mean, these are things that we all know when you think about like what a feat it is to plan an event. So I'm curious if this is one of those things where it's going to be slow and steady. They're going to start to get ideas of what they want it to look like, where they hope it would be, what colors, what's the vibe, what's the size. But before they pull the trigger on like booking that venue, sending out those invites, they might just hold off until the moment really feels right, until the risk factor of, oh my God, are we suddenly going to have to cancel because God knows what happens next, right? Like, just kind of keep that on the back burner until it can be their day, the day of their dreams without any sacrifices. So, like we said, no date right now, and it'll be interesting to see how soon, how urgent, how quickly they turn this around. Next up, our next user says, I think her promo cut was cute. I totally agree with you. I think that it was short, it was simple. It literally couldn't have been more simple, right? White background. I have a feeling that maybe, I mean, we know she's filming right now. Perhaps they just grabbed her quickly, set up a white screen, handed her a rose and said, hey, we gotta like knock this out in an hour, right? Like this was not some extravagant, big fancy. I'm picturing like, I think it was Hannah Brown who like walks through the forest, some big dramatic teaser promo thing. This was very, very like informational, short, to the point, but she looked happy, she looked cute, and it's just one of what's gonna be many, right? Like we're gonna have so many Katie clips, Katie teases in the coming days.
Exactly. I feel like this isn't the last we're going to see of her. I mean, it was short, sweet, to the point. I didn't think they really needed to go above and beyond to really convince us to watch it. I mean, it was just a short, cute clip of her looking adorable. Like Sarah is saying right now, she says, right, she looks adorable. Again, it was just straight to the point, nothing crazy, nothing over dramatic, over the top like Bachelor usually does. So I agree with you. I think, you know what? It's going to speak more volumes when the season actually starts. And again, I know a lot of people that are interested in watching her season, so maybe they aren't working as hard to maybe do the promo teases or anything like that because everyone loved Katie so much. She was the person to stand up to the mean girls in the toxic environment and speak out. And I don't think they're going to need to spend a lot of, money in the promotions department here because so many people are so excited for her season. But maybe that's just me. But again, short, sweet, to the point, just how I like it. And I think Katie is going to take it to the next level with her personality and really kind of carry the whole season home.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. And that's actually something that I hadn't considered. I mean, You are so right. There was so much speculation on who the next Bachelorette was going to be, when they were going to film. Then it was the Michelle rumors. Are we going to have Michelle or Katie or Michelle or both of them, right? Then we got our reveal, 2 Bachelorettes. I mean, that kept us talking for a while. And then, of course, we had the fact that Tayshia and Caitlin Bristowe are going to be taking over for Chris Harrison. This season has had so much buzz before we even learned anything about who the men were, or, you know, when the premiere date was going to be, right?
Right.
I mean, this teaser just gave us such a crucial piece of information, and we have already been talking about this season in depth for weeks. So I'm with you. I think that Katie's season is going to be one of those where the most important thing is really making good TV. I mean, not to go on a tangent, but you and I have talked about this a lot. We know how important it is for ABC to get this season right. There was a lot of criticism that came out of Matt's season. There were a lot of mistakes made. There was a lot of progress, obviously conversations about progress that were sparked from Matt's season, and Katie's following that, right? They have to get it right with Katie. So I'm with you, Hibba. It'll be interesting to see if they keep the promotions, if they keep it all very simple, very close to the vest, because what really matters is the show at the end of the day. Let's see. We have another chat here. Okay, so Kyla says Grace's Insta is private, so doesn't seem like she wants clout. Hello, great example of a Bachelor detective right here. It's so crazy how social media activity can really speak volumes, but my gut kind of says the same thing, right? I mean, if she's keeping her Instagram private, then a lot of people, let's face it, go into the show, go into the world of Bachelor Nation thirsty for Instagram clout. So I don't know. I do think maybe we're all reading into a lot of different things here, but this says something to me. What do you think, Hibba?
This was an interesting point too, because easily, she could have gotten so many Instagram followers with this Reality Steve interview that she did. And I don't know, it's just so hard to say, because it's just, I still don't get why she had to go on the podcast. I mean, she could have just hit up Rachel easily, like via Instagram or whatnot, and just kind of nibbed it in the bud there, or kind of warned her then and there. So for her to really go on this huge platform that is very relevant in the Bachelor franchise and Bachelor Nation with all, the fans, it's really a hit or miss for me. There's still some of that gray area that's left over. So yeah, this kind of information really kind of throws a loop for me a little bit, but I don't know. It's just really interesting why she decided to go on this huge platform and disclose all that information when it could have been handled privately very easily. All right. Now the next user, Jessica, says, we are so fashionista, right? Leave skirt alone. Some skirt have front splits, remember? I mean, back to the skirt again, I guess we're going to discuss this. I mean, it works either way. I think she honestly looks great, whether the zipper's on the front or in the back. I mean, as long as the zipper didn't break, I feel like that's what we should be talking about is the most important thing. Either way, again, she looks great.
Yeah, and see, I mean, this is what's so crazy to me. I guess I just cannot get my head around it all. We have another message from Kyla. She says, the designer designed the skirt with a zipper in the back, though. Yes, I mean, you guys, it is so hilarious how people can really get passionate about things. I have to say, as someone who watched this and didn't blink twice at the skirt, it's hard for me to notice details like that perhaps and then get really invested. But I do think that Katie looks great. I think that Katie is probably going to avoid zipper skirts and zipper dresses in the future, because I have to imagine, knowing Katie's personality, somewhere, if she's aware of this debate that is broken out, she's not loving it. She's not feeling that this is what's important to be talking about in the world right now. So very interesting. We got one more comment. I'm going to let you take this one, Hibba.
All right, Julie says, looking forward to Katie's season. I think I can speak for both of us, Fiona. I think we definitely both are. And whether she wears a zip skirt in the front or the back or whatnot, I think she's going to look great. She's going to kill it. She's going to be really exciting to watch and refreshing as well. And I just also hope that the skirt doesn't take away the thunder of this actual promo that we should be talking about instead. I mean, she's the next Bachelor. We've been rooting for her during Matt's season. So let's not talk about the skirt anymore. Let's focus on, the potential of like what this season will be like, what it will entail, what conversations are going to occur, what funny moments we're going to see. I mean, that's what we should be talking about. But anyways, I think again, we're both very excited. We've been talking about her season so much in the last few weeks and really cannot wait for that premiere date. And I'm really excited for Michelle's as well. Which will be later on in the year. But with Katie's, I think, again, she knows what she wants. She has a good head on her shoulders. She has the balance of knowing what she wants as far as her standards and still having fun and having a personality. So I think it's just going to be a joy to watch her on the show. Sometimes, the leads can be a little bit boring and a little bit bland, and the contestants can be that equally as well. But I think with Katie, she's such a people person, it seems like, and she's so bubbly and has a great personality. So I think it's just going to be even better and even more fun to watch her as well. What do you think, Fiona?
Yeah. Oh my God, no, Hiba, I couldn't have put it better myself. We have so many, I mean, not to criticize anyone out there who's really invested in the skirt. I mean, I guess, sure. But Katie is so exciting. There is so much to look forward to. She is such a breath of fresh air. She is such a strong force. She is so sure of herself. You great point reminding us she knows what she wants. And that is really refreshing. Also, not to be ageist, but let's face it, she's a little older, right? I mean, Katie is not confused. She's not new to the dating pool.
Mhm.
She has dated throughout her 20s. She has made mistakes. She has figured it out. So there is so much to truly be excited about coming up in Bachelor Nation. I think she's going to be an amazing Bachelorette. And I think we are going to have more exciting things to discuss on the Katie front in the future because let's face it, she is so much more than just a skirt, which I know we all know deep down.
Yes.
Anyways. All right, you guys. That is everything we have in Bachelor Nation for you all right now. It is just Monday, though, you guys. We are just kicking off the week. There is going to be so much more Bachelor Nation news in the near future. And don't worry, we will keep you posted here. If we did not get to your comments or your questions in the chat, leave them for us down in the comments. We want to know your thoughts on everything we talked about today, of course. So make sure to go ahead and leave us a comment. Like I said, we are going to be back all week long talking all things Bachelor. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a video, you don't miss a live. As always, I am your host, Fiona Zaring, joined by the wonderful Hiba Berry. If you want to come say hi, our social handles are on the screen right now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.